Spiker S. Diner, Mourner S. Crossing, Connecticut. My name S. Twain. I've been running the kitchen and the graveyard shift at Spiker S. for 12 years now. John Spiker owns the place. I run the 11 to 7, keep the grill hot, keep the coffee moving, and make sure the things that come in after midnight get treated with the right kind of respect. The diner sits just off Route 17, right where the old railroad crossing used to be. They paved over the tracks a long time ago, but on foggy nights you can still hear the low rumble of wheels that aren't really there. Mourner S. Crossing holds on to things. Most locals want to touch the 11 to the 7. They say it's too quiet. I know better. Sam came after Paula quit. He was tall, 26, new in town, moved up from somewhere normal. He smiled too easily for the graveyard shift, and I noticed it before I meant to. On his first night, he kept wiping the same stretch of counter and glancing at the windows every few minutes. Sam hummed when he was nervous, nothing recognizable, just 3 notes under his breath while he wiped counters or counted change. By the end of his first week, I knew the tune well enough to miss it when he stopped. I told him the glass looks back after 1 in the morning, and he laughed because he thought I was joking. At Spiker S, everybody thinks the rules sound funny until they break one. At 3:33 one night, I killed the neon open sign for 60 seconds like I always do. Witching hour doesn't run on church time in Mourner S. Crossing. Around here, 3:33 is when the worst things start looking for somewhere open, so we stop telling them we are. The red light died, and the windows turned black. For a minute, the room lost air. Even the grill stopped popping. Sam looked up from the coffee station and said my name, but I put one finger to my mouth and watched the second hand on the clock. Outside, something moved through the fog. I don't mean something walked past. People walk past. Animals move. Cars roll by with their headlights smeared white in the mist. This was different. The fog thinned around a shape too tall for the sidewalk and too narrow for a body. It stopped in front of the door, close enough that the handle gave a soft click. Sam took 1 step toward it. I grabbed his wrist and held on until the clock gave me 60 seconds. When I flipped the sign back on, the buzz came back wrong, and a trucker in booth 4 looked up from his eggs and asked, calm as hell, you smell blood? We didn't tea, Sam touched his nose anyway. The trucker paid quick, left most of his food, and got out of there. Smart man. I told Sam the first rule in full after that. At 3:33, the sign goes off. Nobody speaks. Nobody answers the door. Nobody touches the glass. If something knocks, we let it knock until it gets embarrassed or hungry enough to go somewhere else. He asked what happens if we leave the sign on. I told him Paula used to have his job. That shut him up for almost an hour. Table 7 stays reserved. I keep an old card on it, handwritten in black marker. Reserved. No date, no name. Tourists ask about it sometimes, usually around dinner, when the place is bright and the worst thing in the room is somebody's child screaming over French fries. I tell them it's for an old regular, which is true enough. One morning, Around 1:15, an old woman in a long black coat came in with the fog. She smelled like river mud and old flowers, and the bell over the door didn't ring when she entered. She headed straight for table 7. Booth 4's warmer, I called out. She sat anyway and said, "This one is fine." Sam looked at me. I shook my head once, but he was new and eager and still thought customer service mattered more than instinct. She ordered the usual, pancakes and black coffee. We didn't have a usual for her, but I made the pancakes, poured the coffee, and told Sam to set everything down without touching the table. He did fine until she asked for extra syrup. When he reached across the table to place the little glass pitcher near her plate, his elbow passed through the space across from her. The old woman stopped smiling. Her eyes went wet and mean all at once. "You watch yourself," she said. "He is sitting there." Sam went pale and stepped back. For 20 minutes, the old woman talked to the empty chair like someone was sitting there with his hands in his lap. "You never could sit still, could you?" she said softly. "Always running off to that damn crossing." She gave a dry laugh and patted the air. "Look at you now." When she left, the coffee cup she hadn't touched had a clean lipstick mark on the rim. I checked the security tape the next morning. Only her at the table the whole time. Sam watched the tape with me, arms crossed tight over his chest. He didn't say anything until it ended, and even then he only asked whether the empty chair had moved. I told him no, because on the tape it hadn't. In the dining room, though, that chair had been pulled back 2 inches from the table when I locked up. After that, Sam started watching table 7 when he thought I wasn't looking. The phone rang at 3:47 3 nights later. After midnight, I let the machine get it. If somebody living needs pancakes, they can leave a message. Sam picked up anyway. A little girl's voice came through, clear and sweet. "Is my daddy still there?" Sam hesitated, then said, "Honey, it's pretty late. We're not really serving anybody right now." The line crackled. I was already crossing the kitchen when the girl said, "He is sitting right behind you." Sam spun around. I was at the grill. The counter stool behind him was empty. The girl whispered, "Tell him I'm coming soon," and hung up. Sam dropped the phone, and blood poured from his nose all over his shirt. I got him into the office, tilted his head forward, and pressed a towel into his hands. He kept apologizing for the blood like the shirt was the problem. I told him if he apologized again, I'd put him on dish duty until sunrise. He almost smiled at that. Almost. After that, every time the phone made a noise, his hands shook. That was when I gave him the next rule. After midnight, the phone belongs to whoever is brave enough to leave a message. We don't answer live calls. We don't call numbers back. We don't listen to the old messages after 2 a.m., especially the ones from people asking whether the road is safe. A little after 2 a.m. during a slow shift, Sheriff Walter Doyle and his husband Mark stopped in. Walter ordered a steak rare and eggs over easy. Mark ordered coffee. They took their usual booth, back to the wall, eyes on the door. Walter gave me a nod that said he knew what kind of night it was, checked table 7 without turning his head, and looked Sam over for half a second. "How long you been hearing the railroad?" Sam's face changed. "I haven't tea, good," Walter said. "Keep lying to yourself until sunrise. Sometimes it helps." Mark didn't smile. He turned his coffee mug one slow inch by the handle and looked toward the windows. "If the girl calls again," Mark said, "don't let him say his name." I hadn't told them about the phone. After they left, Sam asked why saying his name mattered. "Names always matter after midnight," I said. "You say mine all the time." "Not the way they use it." He looked at me a little too long after that, and I made myself clean the same clean spot on the counter until he stopped. Walter paid for half a steak and eggs he barely touched and told me to call if the railroad sounds got close enough to rattle the glass. They didn't stay long. Even the sheriff knows better than to hang around Spiker's too late. There's a rule about the walk-in freezer, too. Most people think the men's room mirror is the bad spot, but the walk-in is worse because it sounds like work. If something knocks from inside after 2:17, you count the knocks and keep your hands where it can't see them. 1 knock, ignore it. 2. Turn off the kitchen radio. 3. Ask what it wants through the door, but Dawn.